It's Monday morning, February 25th, 2002. And the games are done, but not without one more mix of pageantry and controversy. Hunting Daniel Pearl's killers, new details on the connection to Osama bin Laden. And job seekers rejoice. Spring flowers may bring the hiring season with them. Those stories making news early today.
This is Early Today on NBC. And now, Nanette Hansen.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Early Today, the first day in 2 weeks without a slate of Olympic events to follow. This morning, the cleanup is underway. We head to Salt Lake City and NBC's Leanne Gregg for a wrap-up of the closing ceremonies and the last dose of controversy served up by the 19th Winter Games that saw the U.S. win a record 34 medals. Leanne, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Nanette. It was a triumph for Utah and all of America. 2,500 athletes from 78 countries had a final gathering. From NSYNC to Bon Jovi to Gloria Estefan. More than a ceremony, it's a celebration.
You Olympians came here representing 78 different countries, but today you go home heroes of the entire world.
The newest heroes of Canada, this men's hockey team. Defeating their American rivals, Canada wins its first Olympic medal in 50 years. The U.S. takes home silver.
It was a great hockey game, and we played probably one of the best teams in the world, if not the best.
The best to one of the worst sides of sports. On the final day of competition, cross-country skiers from Russia and Spain both stripped of their gold medals after testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs.
Like a bridge.
Controversy aside, these games go down in history as a great accomplishment as Utah and the nation breathes a sigh of relief.
You have reassured us that people from all countries can live peacefully together.
Thank you, and we bid you farewell.
We leave this place as dreamers, because now we know that the dream we share can come true.
The Games now leave the U.S. for at least 10 years. They head first to Athens, then Torino, Italy, then Beijing. Nanette?
Leanne Gregg in Salt Lake City this morning. Thank you very much. There's a published report this morning that the FBI is focusing on a single person in the anthrax investigation. Quoting unnamed sources, this morning's Washington Times reports a former scientist who worked at a government lab is under suspicion but not yet charged. According to the paper, the unnamed researcher is thought to have worked at the U.S. Army Medical Research Center at Fort Detrick, Maryland. 5 people died in the anthrax attacks. The 4 men accused in the abduction and death of reporter Daniel Pearl will be in court today while police scour the Pakistani-Afghan border for the rest of the killers. Ahmed Omar Saeed Sheikh and 3 other men will be charged with kidnapping and murder today in Pakistan. The 3 other men are accused of sending the emails with photos announcing the kidnapping of the Wall Street Journal reporter. Investigators believe the killers have ties to Osama bin Laden and the Taliban. There are reports Omar Saeed Sheikh told investigators he met with bin Laden after the September 11th attacks, and it's now believed Pearl was killed a week after his abduction. And from Rome, details on a potential terrorist plot against Americans. Italian authorities are now investigating whether holes found in the walls of a utility tunnel near the U.S. Embassy in Rome are linked to a potential cyanide attack on the embassy and Rome's water supply. 9 Moroccan men are already under arrest in connection with the case. The defense of confessed killer Andrea Yates begins today in Houston. Yates is on trial for the drowning murders of her 5 children. She's using the insanity defense. Prosecutors want the death penalty. The key testimony this week will be from doctors who spoke to her before and after the deaths. She'd been treated for depression after the birth of one of her children. NBC's Dan Abrams reports former NBA star Jason Williams will turn himself in today to face reckless manslaughter. Williams is the only suspect in the shooting death of a limo driver last week in Williams' New Jersey home. If convicted, Williams could get 5 to 10 years. In the Enron scandal, some of the main players will be back in Washington this week. As more and more layers of the $63 billion bankruptcy are peeled back, investigators still want to know who knew what and when, and more about a videotape where Enron executives urged employees to invest all of their retirement money in Enron stock. Former CEO Jeff Skilling and internal whistleblower Sharon Watkins will testify tomorrow. Joe in now, as he is every day at this time, with a look at our weather. Welcome back to Early Today,
Good
Joe.
morning, Annette. Yes, good to see you. Olympics are finally over, and finally we're going to get some really cold weather in the northern plains. Sub-zero temperatures by the middle portion of the week. Today, another mild day in the eastern third of the country. Take a look at the weather map. We have a weak frontal system dividing the country into two parts. Along that two pairs of lows, L's, we have a weak frontal system providing some cloudiness today, and along that front we'll see some developing light rain showers by later on this afternoon and this evening time. Generally around the western areas of Kentucky and Tennessee and around the Chicagoland area, some light rain showers. But look at the contrast in temperatures we're going to have today. We've got the upper 50s around New York and Philadelphia, and then over the western areas we've got 8 degrees in Billings, Montana, and that's for today. Things will cool down as that cold, very cold high-pressure area drops down to the south across the Canadian border, and so that by tomorrow we'll see temperatures in the teens as far south as Minneapolis, St. Paul, and that cold weather advances to the east. That's the national weather. Now here's what's happening in your neighborhood. Highs today, 48, 46 degrees in Boston, and we'll see 62 in Pittsburgh, but watch out for tomorrow, much colder. Atlanta, 70 degrees, 70 in Raleigh-Durham, headed for Orlando, 78 degrees, and Minneapolis today, a cold 26 degrees. Phoenix, 79 degrees, and we'll see 64 in San Francisco. And get ready on that by Thursday morning. You'll need a thick sweater and a windbreaker for sure.
Haven't needed that in a while.
Certainly not this winter.
Joe, did you catch up on your sleep the past few
I
weeks?
sure did, yes. It was so nice.
Me too. Yeah, back to the old grind, though. Have a good day. Joe Whitty, just ahead on Early Today. A new ruling that could be good news for dormant online music service Napster, and is no news good news in the hunt for Osama bin Laden. The latest on what the military knows about his location. Here's a look at how Hong Kong and Tokyo traded this morning. And here's the very latest from the European markets up and running at this hour. As for Wall Street, the markets will look for some consistency this week after 4 roller coaster sessions of triple-digit gains and losses. On Friday, the Dow Jones Industrials rose 133 points to 99.68, and the Nasdaq gained 8 points to 1724. A new survey finds prospects for the nation's job market looking up. Pat Bolland is in the CNBC newsroom. He has more in today's Market Watch report. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Annette. That's right. Staffing firm Manpower says of the 16,000 companies it interviewed in its quarterly survey of hiring plans, more than 20% expect to add workers this spring. Now, that's better than the last survey in which only 16% expected to hire more employees during the winter months. However, Manpower says when seasonal factors are taken into account, the improvement isn't significant enough to say a hiring recovery is underway. 60% of companies don't plan to make any changes in their workforce, while 10% believe they'll actually have to cut employees. TRW has until Wednesday to decide whether to accept a hostile $6 billion takeover offer from Northrop Grumman. Northrop's bid for the defense contractor and auto parts maker comes just days after TRW's CEO left to head up Honeywell. And score a victory for Napster. A federal judge has ruled the record industry must prove it owns the rights to the songs it's seeking to protect in its lawsuit against the company. The record labels are seeking damages from the online file sharing service for allowing songs to be trafficked. On the early earnings calendar this week, we'll hear from The Gap, Home Depot, Target, and Tiffany's. And it's a heavy week of economic data with existing home sales today, consumer confidence tomorrow, and Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan gives his take on the economy before a Senate committee Wednesday. And we'll get a second look at the fourth quarter GDP on Thursday. But if you ask me at this early hour, I'm kind of missing the Olympics a little bit, and that sentimental guy that I am.
Spoken like a true Canadian, Pat.
Maybe that's why.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Pat Bolland. A non-Olympic sports story this morning, by the way. The Michael Jordan comeback is in trouble. The superstar, known for playing through anything, may be on the bench for a while. His right knee is hurt, and Jordan says he can't ignore what his body's telling him, and he may go on the injured list. Jordan sat out the end of the Washington Wizards' loss last night to the Miami Heat. Just ahead on Early Today, after some wild swings on Wall Street, what's next, you ask, for investors? We'll assess the state of the markets with Mike Santoli from Barron's when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. A bumpy ride for stocks last week as the Dow finished the last three sessions with triple-digit moves. Joining us to take stock of the week that was and preview what might happen this week is Mike Santoli, editor at Barron's. Last time we spoke, the Dow is pretty much where it is now.
Yeah, hasn't done too much on the Dow. NASDAQ has had its troubles continually since that point, actually all year, with the exception of the first week of the year. But the Dow has actually held up pretty well. It's really just a matter of having big, stable companies that have very great leverage, as they say, to a recovering economy, and that's encouraged some people in those types of stocks.
Mm-hmm. During the break, you were telling me that you were looking at some of the stocks, the companies that have hit new highs, and give us a picture. They all sort of have the same definition.
Household names without too much questions about their books and without a lot of debt. Very stable businesses like Anheuser-Busch, Kellogg, Clorox, International Flavors and Fragrances. These are big old consumer names that people on Wall Street have known for many, many years, and they have no real concerns about what's really lurking behind, door number 2 in terms of the accounting and things like that.
Let's talk a little bit about the Enron effect. Earlier, I reported that some of the key players are going to return to Washington this week, and we continue to see headlines about other big companies and how they crunch their numbers,
right.
Questions. But is that all that's impacting what's going on in the stock market today?
It's probably not all that, but it does create just a pervasive fear or a worry about whether the numbers, even back in the boom times, were what they seemed. And I think the key to look at here is, what people on Wall Street do is they pay a certain amount of money per dollar of earnings in each company, and now they're not sure that dollar is really a full dollar. And so basically nobody's going to be given a benefit of the doubt. Every company is going to, kind of be parsed and pulled apart. And so that just does create this level of uncertainty. Now, there's also the fact that we're not really sure if the economy is recovering as quickly as we'd like. So there's a little back and forth of debate about whether the economy really warrants higher stock prices right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about February 02, because it's almost done, right. Almost in the history books. What were the high points and low points here?
It really is going to go down as probably just the continuing Enron repercussions, but really the broadening of the Enron story into global crossing and all the rest. And really it wasn't too much for investors to focus on besides that. I mean, it was, the Dow held up fairly well. The broad market's down probably another 3%. So really it's been one continual downward slide with the exception of the first week of the year so far in 2002, which puts the market in a pretty big hole if it wants to avoid a third straight year of declines at this point.
Yeah, going into March, what are we looking at happening here?
We are looking for any signs of people turning their attention to the economy. So this week, for example, as March gets going, we're going to get an idea for consumer confidence, new home sales, and the first estimate of fourth quarter economic growth. So that'll kind of tell us where we stand in the recession recovery side of that debate. So we're really looking for investors' attentions hopefully to turn back to the fundamentals of the economy as opposed to just being consumed with financial scandal and shenanigans and things like that.
Mike Santoli with Barron's. Always good to see you.
It's good seeing you.
Did you enjoy your 2 weeks off?
Certainly
so to
did.
speak.
Only 4 years till the next one, right?
There you go. Next Olympics. That's right. Mike Santoli is an editor at Barron's Magazine. You can read more from him in the current issue. Still to come, though, on Early Today, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld plays Meet the Press and talks about the next step for the U.S. military, making more bombs.
Time for the Early Today Biz Quiz. How long is the life expectancy of any durable goods item? The answer in just a couple of minutes.
The Biz Quiz is brought to you by Conoco.
Here's the answer to the Early Today Biz Quiz. How long is the life expectancy of any durable goods item? 3 years or more. Orders for durable good items like cars and computers soared above 12.5% in October.
It is day 142 of the war in Afghanistan. Over the weekend, American forces came under rocket attack at the base in Kandahar. No U.S. troops were injured, and it's been almost 6 months since the September 11th attacks and the hunt for Osama bin Laden. This morning, NBC's Nora O'Donnell has more on the hunt for the world's most wanted man.
For the first time, top U.S. officials admit they've intercepted almost no communications from bin Laden for nearly 2 months.
Been very quiet on that front for since early January. We just haven't heard a lot from him.
Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld on NBC's Meet the Press.
If he's alive, he's very busy hiding somewhere, and he is having a dickens of a time communicating with his people.
U.S. officials still don't know if bin Laden may have been killed in a Hellfire missile attack in Zawahiri by a CIA Predator drone. Forensic tests are underway at the FBI in Washington. But Rumsfeld is emphatic those killed were not innocent civilians.
Well, I've watched the video from the Predator unmanned aerial vehicle, and the suggestion that those people were scrap collectors is ludicrous.
President Bush in Washington went to church as there are reports he plans to meet with Britain's Tony Blair to discuss broadening the war to Iraq. White House officials would say only that Blair is likely to return to the White House soon to discuss a wide variety of issues. But will the U.S. be ready to take on Saddam Hussein? Washington Post reports Pentagon planners will need 6 months to produce enough precision-guided bombs to engage Iraq. Stockpiles of such smart bombs have been severely depleted. More than 10,000 dropped in Afghanistan.
We are rapidly replenishing the things we need, and we have no intention of trying to do things we're not capable of doing.
That was NBC's Nora O'Donnell reporting. Now recapping our top stories this morning, the 4 men accused in the abduction and murder of reporter Daniel Pearl will appear in court today. Pakistani police continue to scour the Pakistani-Afghan border for the rest of the killers. The trial of a mother accused of drowning her 5 children in a bathtub resumes in Houston this morning. Prosecutors will cross-examine doctors who talked to Andrea Yates before and after the death of her children. And after more than 2 months, it's no longer a virtual house arrest for Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. Israel has drawn back tanks from his compound, but is limiting Arafat to the West Bank city of Ramallah. For now, I'm Nanette Hansen, and this is Early Today on NBC.
Send your comments or questions to earlytoday@nbc.com.
Well, for all of you who can't wait for more Olympic action, only 899 days to go until the Games of Athens, Greece. With huge security and building problems ahead, preparation for the Summer Games there in August 2004 will be watched very closely. With more on all of this morning, here's NBC's Brian Williams from Greece.
Greek weightlifter Pyros Dimas, already a 2-time Olympic champion. He is hoping here to break his own world record. And the metaphor here is impossible to ignore. Athens has some very heavy lifting to do before the Games can begin. This is a nation of 10 million preparing to welcome the world. They are spending $6 billion to do it.
This is exciting, it's difficult, but we're trying to modernize the infrastructure as well.
Even the head of the Games here admits modernizing a place that's 3,000 years old has its challenges. Like when you try to build anything in Greece, from highways to hotels. The preservationists show up because just about anywhere you're digging into history.
I'm sure in Sydney and Salt Lake and Atlanta there were construction challenges, but not of the scope where every time you put a shovel into the ground, you might be uncovering something of over 3,000 years old.
Another factor, the modern Greek culture, which often seems to Westerners to be saying, enjoy life and live for today. Tomorrow's problems can be fixed tomorrow. That can be a problem where construction and security are concerned because both are badly needed right now.
We must be ready every day, now, tomorrow, yesterday, to fight every threat.
The Greeks know they must cooperate with agencies like the U.S. Secret Service, who constantly train for this kind of thing. After all, the whole world is watching.
If Greece cooperates with the IOC, with the European Union, with the United States, with all those international security agencies that are going to want to help Greece, I think the chances of a successful event are high.
So the heavy lifting begins, just like the kind that did indeed win Piros Dimas his new world record.
Ooh. NBC's Brian Williams reporting. Thanks for being with us on Early Today after our 2-week Olympics hiatus. Have a great morning, everybody. We'll be back again tomorrow. Hope to see you then.